Welcome to Momentum Mind. This is not a place for quick motivation or empty promises. This is where stories reshape the way you feel, think, and live. Today's journey is a deep, immersive retelling of a powerful book, not read, not summarized, but experienced. A story where the body remembers what the mind tries to forget. Where memory lives in breath, tension, and silence. And where healing begins without words. Put on your headphones. Slow down. And let the story move through you. Chapter 1. The Silent Archive. The body was never empty. Even when it looked calm, even when it moved through ordinary days, it carried a vast hidden landscape beneath the skin. This world was not made of bones and blood alone. It was made of echoes. Every step across it stirred something buried. Every breath brushed against memories that did not sleep. In this world, memory did not live in stories. It lived in tight shoulders, shallow breath, aching joints, restless hands. It lived in the sudden freezing of muscles, in hearts that raced without warning, in eyes that watched even in safety. The body was an archive that never closed its doors. At the center of this landscape stood a watcher. Not a person, but a quiet presence that moved through hospitals, homes, and broken places. It observed how people tried to outrun what lived inside them. It saw how they tried to think their way out, to reason with pain as if pain spoke words. It saw how often they failed. The watcher noticed that the mind liked straight paths. It wanted beginnings and endings, causes and cures. The body did not agree. The body moved in circles. It remembered without asking permission. It reacted before thought could rise. It clung to the past not because it wanted suffering, but because it believed it was protecting life. In the body's world, danger never truly left. It only hid. A slammed door could shake the ground like thunder. A certain smell could darken the sky. A familiar shape could twist the air until muscles locked and breath vanished. These were not thoughts. These were storms passing through flesh. People in this world often felt betrayed by themselves. They wondered why calm moments suddenly shattered. Why joy dissolved without warning. Why sleep turned into a battlefield. They blamed weakness. They blamed character. They blamed will. They did not yet see the map written inside them. The watcher saw bodies that learned to disappear while standing upright. They walked, worked, smiled, and answered questions, but inside they were far away. Sensation dimmed. Sound softened. The world lost texture. This was not rest. This was escape. The body had learned that leaving was safer than feeling. Other bodies went the opposite way. They stayed alert, wired, tense, always scanning. Muscles hardened like armor. Sleep came lightly or not at all. Every moment felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. These bodies believed danger was always about to return, and they refused to be caught unaware again. Neither state was chosen. Both were survival. The watcher traced these patterns back through time, not in dates or events, but in imprints. It saw moments when the body had been overwhelmed, when escape was impossible, when fear flooded every system at once. In those moments, the body made decisions faster than thought. It learned rules that could not be unlearned easily. Never relax. Never trust stillness. Never feel too much. Never feel at all. These rules sank deep, settling into posture, breath, heartbeat, digestion. They shaped how people stood in rooms, how they responded to touch, how they heard voices. They shaped love. They shaped anger. They shaped silence. The mind tried to explain these reactions, but its explanations arrived late. By the time words appeared, the body had already acted. Muscles had tightened. Hormones had surged. Vision had narrowed. The body did not wait for permission. It had learned that speed meant survival. In this world, people were often told to talk about what hurt them. Words were offered like keys. Sometimes they helped. Sometimes they did nothing. The watcher noticed that telling a story did not always reach the places where pain lived. Some memories were not stored as images or sentences. They were stored as sensations. A tight chest did not care about logic. A frozen spine did not respond to reassurance. A trembling hand did not calm because of understanding. These parts spoke a different language. They listened for safety, not meaning. The watcher moved through clinics where people lay still while machines hummed around them. It moved through classrooms where children struggled to sit in chairs that felt like traps. It moved through homes where anger flared suddenly, without warning, leaving shame behind. Everywhere, the same truth echoed softly. The body remembers what the mind wishes it could forget. Some people tried to outrun this truth with force. They pushed harder. They demanded discipline. They punished themselves for reactions they did not choose. Their bodies responded by tightening further, digging deeper trenches, preparing for battles that never ended. Others numbed themselves. They flooded their systems with noise, movement, substances, distractions. Anything to avoid the quiet moments when the archive stirred. anything to silence the signals rising from within. But numbness came with a price. It dulled joy along with pain. It flattened the world. The watcher saw that trauma was not just about what happened. It was about what happened inside when escape was impossible. It was about the body learning that the present was unsafe, even long after danger had passed. It was about time folding in on itself, past and present sharing the same breath. In this world, healing did not look like erasing memory. Nothing erased the archive. Healing looked like learning to listen without being overwhelmed. It looked like slowly teaching the body that the ground beneath it was solid again. That the air was safe to breathe. That sensation could return without danger following close behind. But this knowledge was rare. Most people were taught to distrust their bodies. They were taught that control lived only in thought. They were taught that strength meant ignoring sensation. The watcher saw how this teaching deepened the divide between mind and flesh. When the body was ignored long enough, it spoke louder. It shouted through pain, panic, illness, collapse. It forced attention through disruption. These were not betrayals. They were messages delivered in the only language left. Somewhere deep within the archive, beneath layers of fear and tension, there remained a quiet capacity for balance. The watcher sensed it. It was fragile, easily buried, but it existed. It lived in rhythms, in breath, in movement, in connection. It lived in moments when the body felt seen rather than commanded. Yet reaching it required patience that felt unbearable. It required staying present when every instinct screamed to flee. It required safety that had to be built slowly, through experience rather than promise. The body did not trust words alone. It trusted patterns. As the watcher lingered in this first layer of the world, it felt a pressure building. A tension not yet released. The archive was vast, but it was not chaotic. There were pathways through it. There were methods the body recognized as language. Touch, movement, rhythm, breath, attention. These were doors, not explanations. But opening them too quickly could flood the system. Stirring memory without safety could shatter fragile ground. The watcher knew that before any door could open, the body had to feel anchored in the present. It had to sense its own edges again. It had to know where it ended and the world began. The world of the body was ancient. Older than thought. Older than story. And it was waiting. Beneath calm surfaces, beneath practiced smiles and controlled movements, the archive stirred, restless but hopeful. It did not want to relive the past. It wanted release. It wanted resolution written in sensation rather than memory. As the watcher turned deeper into this landscape, it felt the presence of something powerful ahead. A force that could either overwhelm or restore. A force that shaped how bodies reacted to closeness, authority, danger, and care. The next layer of this world was not about memory alone. It was about survival systems that never learned the war was over. Chapter 2. The alarm that never sleeps. The world beneath the skin grew louder as the watcher moved deeper. Here, nothing truly rested. Signals pulsed endlessly, like distant drums beating without pause. This was the realm of the alarm, a system built to sense threat and summon action faster than thought could form. In this place, safety was not assumed. It had to be proven again and again, moment by moment. The alarm lived everywhere at once. It flowed through nerves like electricity, surged through blood like fire, tightened muscles into readiness. It was meant to rise briefly and then fade, like a wave that breaks and returns to the sea. But in many bodies, it never returned. It stayed high, humming, vibrating, waiting. The watcher saw how this constant alertness shaped lives. People woke already braced, jaws clenched, shoulders lifted toward ears. Their bodies prepared for impact before their feet touched the ground. The world felt sharp, crowded, unpredictable. Every sound carried weight. Every movement demanded assessment. This alarm did not ask permission. It reacted to patterns, not reality. A certain tone in a voice could strike like lightning. A sudden movement could ignite a blaze of sensation. The body responded as if danger were present, even when the room was quiet and still. In this layer of the world, the past disguised itself as the present. The body did not recognize time the way the mind did. It did not mark before and after. It recognized only similarity. When something resembled an old threat, the alarm sounded. The watcher noticed how quickly this process unfolded. Before awareness arrived, the heart was already racing. Breath had already shortened. Muscles had already tightened. Blood had already shifted away from places meant for rest and repair. The body chose survival first. Explanation came later, if it came at all. Some bodies lived in a state of constant motion because stillness felt dangerous. Movement kept the alarm from turning inward. Others froze, locking themselves into immobility, hoping invisibility would bring safety. Both were responses shaped by long-ago lessons, learned when escape was uncertain. In this world, people were often confused by their own reactions. They wondered why calm situations felt unbearable. Why joy carried an edge of fear? Why closeness stirred unease instead of comfort? The alarm interpreted intimacy as exposure. It read relaxation as risk. The watcher observed how this system affected relationships. Bodies that expected danger struggled to trust. They pulled away without knowing why, or clung tightly out of fear of loss. Their reactions seemed sudden, intense, disproportionate. But within the alarm's logic, they made perfect sense. The alarm was not cruel. It was loyal. It had kept the body alive when nothing else could. It had learned to react instantly because hesitation once carried a cost. It did not know the difference between then and now. It only knew patterns etched into nerve and muscle. The watcher moved through spaces where people tried to quiet the alarm with force. They demanded calm. They ordered themselves to relax. Their bodies responded by resisting harder. The alarm did not respond to commands. It responded to signals of safety, and those signals had to be felt, not declared. In this layer, the watcher saw how the alarm reshaped perception. Colors sharpened or dulled. Sounds grew louder or distant. Time stretched or collapsed. The body narrowed its focus to what seemed most important for survival. Everything else faded into the background. This narrowing came with a cost. Creativity dimmed. Curiosity shrank. The world lost depth. Life became about avoiding danger rather than seeking meaning. The body conserved energy for threats that never arrived, leaving little for play, connection, or rest. The watcher sensed that beneath the alarm's noise, another system waited. One that supported calm, digestion, healing, and connection. But the alarm dominated, drowning out softer signals. It ruled the internal landscape like a storm that refused to pass. In some bodies, the alarm flared only at certain moments. In others, it never fully shut down. Chronic tension became the default state. Pain settled into muscles and joints. Sleep fragmented. The body aged under the weight of constant readiness. The watcher traced these patterns not to weakness, but to adaptation. The alarm had once been necessary. It had once meant survival. But it had not been taught how to stand down. No one had shown it that the danger was over. The body needed experiences, not explanations, to learn this truth. It needed moments where the alarm rose and then gently fell without catastrophe following. It needed repetition, patience, and time. Without these, the alarm stayed loud. The watcher noticed how environments influenced this system. Crowded spaces, harsh lighting, unpredictable noise all fed the alarm. Gentle movement, steady rhythms, familiar sensations helped soften it. The body responded to atmosphere before it responded to thought. Some people discovered this by accident. They felt calmer near water, or while walking, or while breathing in certain patterns. Their bodies recognized safety in rhythm and repetition. These moments were brief, fragile, easily lost. But they mattered. The alarm resisted sudden silence. When it had been active too long, quiet felt threatening. Stillness felt like exposure. The body preferred tension it knew over calm it could not yet trust. Letting go felt like stepping into darkness without a map. The watcher saw how this made rest difficult. When the world finally slowed, the alarm surged. Sleep became shallow. Dreams replayed fragments of old danger. The body used night to process what it could not release during the day. Yet even in this restless landscape, the watcher sensed potential. The alarm could learn new patterns. It could recalibrate. It could discover that safety was not a trap. But this required approaching it with respect, not force. The alarm needed to be acknowledged, not silenced. It needed to feel seen, understood, and gradually reassured. It needed proof, delivered through sensation, that the present moment was different from the past it guarded against. As the watcher prepared to move deeper still, the alarm pulsed strongly, as if aware of being observed. Its energy filled the space, vibrating with urgency. It was powerful, relentless, protective, and exhausted. Beyond it lay another realm, one shaped not by motion or alertness, but by absence. A place where the body learned not to fight, not to flee, but to vanish. Chapter 3. The Vanishing Self. Beyond the constant hum of the alarm, the world changed. The air grew thin. Sensation faded at the edges. This was a quieter place, but not a peaceful one. Here, the body had learned a different kind of survival. Instead of preparing for action, it had learned to disappear. The watcher moved carefully through this realm, where presence itself felt fragile. Bodies here did not brace or tense. They softened, collapsed inward, drifted away from sensation. Pain dulled. Pleasure dimmed. The world lost color and weight, as if seen through thick glass. This was the place of vanishing. When escape had been impossible and resistance useless, the body had chosen absence. It had learned to float above itself, to retreat from sensation, to fragment awareness into distant corners. This was not rest. It was shelter built from numbness. In this world, people often felt detached from their own lives. They moved through days as if watching from afar. Their actions felt automatic, their reactions delayed. Joy arrived faintly, if at all. Pain appeared without context, heavy and confusing. The watcher noticed how these bodies often struggled to feel real. They questioned their emotions, their desires, their sense of identity. They felt empty yet overwhelmed. They felt disconnected yet trapped within themselves. This state was not chosen. It was learned. The body had discovered that feeling fully was too dangerous. Sensation had once meant threat, invasion, or helplessness. So the body dimmed its signals. It turned down the volume on life. The watcher saw how this vanishing affected memory. Events were remembered without feeling, or feelings surfaced without memory. Time fractured. Days blurred together. The past felt distant, yet strangely close, hovering at the edge of awareness. In this realm, the body conserved energy by shutting down systems not needed for immediate survival. Digestion slowed. Immune responses weakened. Vitality drained quietly away. The body survived, but it did not thrive. The watcher sensed the sadness woven into this landscape. Not dramatic sorrow, but a quiet mourning for a life half-lived. These bodies had learned to endure by becoming small, by taking up less space, by asking less of the world. Relationships in this realm felt distant. Connection required presence, and presence felt risky. Touch could feel unreal or overwhelming. Emotional closeness stirred unease. The body preferred distance, even when loneliness ate deeply. The watcher noticed how people in this state were often misunderstood. Their calm was mistaken for strength. Their silence for acceptance. Their withdrawal for indifference. Inside, they were working constantly to maintain the delicate balance of staying absent enough to feel safe. This vanishing could shift suddenly. When the numbness cracked, sensation rushed in without warning. Fear, pain, or rage surged uncontrollably. The body swung between absence and overwhelm, unable to settle into a steady middle ground. The watcher traced this pattern back to moments when the body had learned that fighting back made things worse. When freezing, collapsing, or leaving inwardly had been the only option left. The body had saved itself the only way it could. In this place, the idea of healing felt distant, even threatening. Feeling more meant risking collapse. Awakening sensation meant reopening doors long sealed. The body resisted change, not out of stubbornness, but out of fear. The watcher observed how some people tried to force themselves to feel again. They pushed, demanded, judged. Their bodies responded with deeper withdrawal. The vanishing self retreated further, protecting its fragile shelter. Yet beneath the numbness, the watcher sensed something intact. A quiet awareness, still watching, still waiting. The self had not vanished completely. It had gone into hiding, preserving what remained until safety returned. The body in this realm needed gentleness. Sudden intensity shattered its fragile calm. Loud demands echoed painfully. What it needed was gradual awakening, slow reconnection, experiences of choice and control. The watcher felt the weight of time here. This state could last for years without being noticed. Life could pass in a blur, marked by routine rather than presence. The body endured, but the cost was high. And yet, even here, the archive continued its work. The body did not forget. It stored what it could not yet process. It waited for conditions that allowed return. As the watcher prepared to leave this realm, it sensed movement ahead. A stirring beneath the numbness. A place where memory did not hide or explode, but replayed itself endlessly. A place where the past refused to stay in the past. Chapter 4. The Looping Storm. The watcher entered a place where time folded in on itself. Here, memory did not whisper or hide. It surged forward, vivid and relentless, replaying itself without mercy. The air was heavy with sensation, thick with images that refused to fade. This was the realm of return, where the past rose again and again, unchanged, uncontained. In this world, the body no longer vanished. It relived. Moments from long ago burst into the present with full force. Muscles tightened as if bracing for impact. Breath caught as if danger were happening now. The heart pounded with the same urgency it had learned before. The body did not remember that it survived. It only remembered the threat. The watcher saw how these storms arrived without warning. A glance, a sound, a shift in light could tear open the sky. Suddenly the body was no longer where it stood. It was back inside a moment it never finished living through. Sensation overwhelmed thought. Awareness narrowed to survival alone. In this realm, people often felt hijacked by themselves. They knew somewhere that they were safe, yet their bodies refused to believe it. Knowledge and sensation lived in separate worlds. The mind watched helplessly as the body reacted with full intensity. These looping storms carried images sharper than memory usually allowed. Details returned with painful clarity. Textures, smells, pressure, heat, cold. The body recreated what words could not hold. It did not offer distance or perspective. It offered immersion. The Watcher noticed how exhausting this was. Each storm drained energy, leaving bodies shaken, ashamed, confused. People wondered why they could not move on, why the past refused to loosen its grip. They did not see that the body was still trying to complete something unfinished. In this place, memory did not arrive as a story with an ending. It arrived as fragments, sensations without sequence, fear without context. The body had never been able to process the experience fully. It had survived instead. Now it demanded resolution. The Watcher observed how people tried to suppress these storms. They pushed them away, fought them, drowned them out. The storms returned stronger. The body interpreted resistance as danger, intensifying its response. Avoidance narrowed lives. Places were abandoned. Activities disappeared. Relationships strained. The world shrank to avoid triggering the storm. Safety became confinement. Some bodies lived in constant anticipation of the next surge. They monitored themselves relentlessly, scanning for early signs. This vigilance fed the storm, keeping the system primed. Rest became impossible. Peace felt temporary and fragile. The Watcher sensed the cruelty of this cycle. The body sought release, yet every attempt to control it tightened the loop. The storm needed space to move, but space felt unbearable. In this realm, people often felt broken beyond repair. They believed something inside them was damaged forever. They did not know that the storm was not a flaw, but a signal. The body was asking to be heard in its own language. The Watcher felt the intensity of this place pressing inward. The storms were loud, insistent, desperate. They carried energy that had never been discharged, fear that had never been allowed to resolve. The body had frozen mid-action long ago, and now it tried endlessly to complete the motion. The Watcher noticed something important here. When people were gently supported during these storms, when they were not alone, when their bodies felt anchored in the present, the intensity sometimes shifted. The storm did not vanish, but it softened. The body tested the possibility of safety while remembering. But this was delicate work. Without grounding, the storm overwhelmed. Without containment, memory flooded the system. The balance was fragile, easily lost. The Watcher sensed that this realm stood at a crossroads. One path led deeper into repetition, exhaustion, and despair. The other required something unfamiliar: connection. Not explanation. Not analysis. Connection. The body could not complete its unfinished work alone. It needed signals from outside itself. It needed to feel accompanied, seen, held in the present while touching the past. This was not weakness. It was biology. As the Watcher prepared to move onward, the storms continued to churn behind it, unresolved but restless. Ahead lay another layer of the world, one shaped not by memory alone, but by relationship. A place where bodies learned whether other humans were safe, dangerous, or invisible. A place where survival was negotiated between nervous systems. Chapter 5. The Fragile Bridge. The Watcher stepped into a realm shaped by closeness. Here, the body did not face danger alone. It measured safety through others. Every gesture, every presence, every absence sent ripples through this landscape. This was the place where survival was learned in connection, where the body decided whether to open or retreat. In this world, bodies spoke constantly to one another without words. Breath synchronized or fell out of rhythm. Muscles softened or tightened in response to nearby movement. Hearts adjusted their pace depending on who stood close. The body listened before the mind noticed. The Watcher saw how early experiences had carved deep channels here. Some bodies had learned that closeness brought comfort. Others had learned that it brought confusion, pain, or threat. These lessons settled into posture, gaze, and tone, shaping how people approached one another long after the original moments had faded. For some, connection felt like warmth. Their bodies leaned toward others naturally. Touch felt grounding. Shared presence calmed the internal world. These bodies carried an imprint of safety that softened the alarm and quieted the storm. For others, closeness activated danger. Their bodies stiffened when someone drew near. Their breath shortened. Their skin bristled. The nervous system prepared for harm even in gentle situations. Intimacy felt like exposure. The Watcher observed how this shaped lives. People longed for connection while fearing it deeply. They moved toward others and then pulled away without understanding why. Their bodies remembered lessons their minds did not consciously hold. In this realm, trust was not an idea. It was a sensation. The body decided first whether someone was safe. The mind followed, often trying to justify what the body had already chosen. The Watcher noticed how misattunement wounded deeply here. When bodies reached for comfort and found distance, the alarm flared. When they sought protection and met unpredictability, the storm intensified. When their signals were ignored, the vanishing returned. These wounds were subtle but powerful. They taught bodies to doubt their own needs. They taught restraint, silence, compliance. They taught vigilance. The body learned to adapt to the rhythms of others, often at the cost of its own balance. In this world, healing did not happen in isolation. The body could not relearn safety alone. It needed experiences of steady presence, of being seen without being overwhelmed, of being close without losing itself. The watcher sensed how difficult this was. Trust required risk. Risk stirred old patterns. The body approached connection cautiously, testing the ground with small movements. A glance held. A breath shared. A moment of stillness that did not collapse into danger. Some connections failed these tests. The body retreated quickly, reinforcing old beliefs. Others held steady. The nervous system noted this quietly, adjusting its expectations by degrees too small to notice at first. The watcher saw how consistency mattered more than intensity. Grand gestures meant little if followed by unpredictability. The body trusted patterns, not promises. Safety was built through repetition, through moments that ended without harm. In this realm, shame often hovered close. Bodies blamed themselves for needing others. They believed independence was strength and reliance was weakness. This belief isolated them further, starving systems designed for connection. The watcher observed that the body did not thrive alone. It regulated itself through others, finding balance through shared rhythms. Isolation strained these systems, keeping the alarm active and the storm close. Yet connection could not be forced. The body resisted closeness that felt unsafe, even if the mind insisted otherwise. True safety could not be performed. It had to be felt. As the watcher lingered, it sensed a growing tension. Connection offered healing, but it also risked reopening wounds. The body stood at the edge of something uncertain, weighing the cost of staying guarded against the pain of remaining alone. Ahead lay another layer of the world, one where the body began to reclaim itself. A place shaped by movement, sensation, and choice. A place where the archive might finally begin to loosen its grip. Chapter 6. The Language of Sensation. The watcher entered a realm where the body began to speak again. Not in words, not in stories, but in movement, rhythm, and feeling. This place felt different from all the others. It was not dominated by alarm, absence, or storm. It was shaped by curiosity. Here, attention turned inward without collapsing. Sensation was approached gently, like stepping into cool water 1 inch at a time. The body was not forced to remember. It was invited to notice. The watcher saw how this shift changed everything. Instead of being overwhelmed by sensation, bodies began to observe it. Tightness was felt as pressure rather than threat. Breath was noticed as movement rather than proof of danger. The body learned that sensation could exist without catastrophe following close behind. This realm was not about digging into memory. It was about building a foundation in the present. The body learned where it ended and the world began. It learned the feeling of feet on solid ground, of air filling the lungs fully, of muscles releasing by choice. The watcher noticed how unfamiliar this felt at first. Many bodies had lived for so long in extremes that neutrality felt strange. Calm felt empty. Stillness felt suspicious. The body tested these states cautiously, ready to retreat at the first sign of danger. In this place, control was redefined. Instead of suppressing sensation, the body learned to modulate it. Attention moved like a dimmer rather than a switch. Sensation could be approached, then stepped back from. This flexibility was new and powerful. The watcher sensed how this helped resolve the storms. When memory surfaced, the body did not drown. It stayed anchored in the present through sensation. Fear rose, but it did not consume everything. The body learned that it could feel and survive at the same time. Movement played a central role here. Slow, intentional motion allowed the body to complete actions once frozen in place. Muscles remembered how to push away, to turn, to step back. These movements were small, but they carried meaning deeper than thought. The watcher observed how choice returned. The body rediscovered that it could say yes or no through action. That it could approach and retreat. That it was not trapped inside past reactions. This restored a sense of agency long lost. In this realm, the vanishing self began to reappear. Sensation returned gradually, not as a flood but as a gentle current. Pleasure emerged quietly. Discomfort was tolerated without panic. The body began to feel whole again. The watcher saw how patience was essential. Pushing too fast reignited the alarm. Forcing sensation reopened old wounds. The body required respect for its pace, its boundaries, its signals. Here, the body learned a new language. One built on awareness rather than control. On curiosity rather than judgment. On experience rather than explanation. This language bypassed the mind's defenses and spoke directly to the archive. The watcher sensed that this work reshaped identity. People no longer defined themselves solely by what had happened to them. They began to experience themselves as living, sensing beings in the present. The past loosened its grip. Yet this realm was not free of tension. As sensation returned, so did vulnerability. Feeling more meant risking hurt. Opening the body meant reopening the possibility of pain. The nervous system approached this edge cautiously. The watcher felt a subtle shift occurring. The body was beginning to trust itself again. It was learning that it could handle sensation without losing control. This trust was fragile, easily shaken, but real. Ahead lay another layer of the world, one where sensation met structure. Where the body did not heal alone, but within systems designed to support regulation and safety. A place where ancient rhythms and modern tools converged. A place where the archive could finally begin to reorganize itself. Chapter 7. The Returning Rhythm. The watcher stepped into a place shaped by pattern. This realm was quieter than the storm, steadier than the alarm, warmer than the vanishing. Here, the body began to rediscover rhythm. Not the forced rhythm of survival, but the natural rise and fall that once guided breath, movement, and rest. In this world, the body no longer felt like a battlefield. It felt like a living system learning how to move in harmony again. Pulses spread evenly. Breath deepened without effort. Muscles released their constant vigilance in small, cautious waves. The watcher saw how rhythm brought order where chaos once ruled. Repetition without threat taught the body what words never could. Each steady cycle whispered the same message again and again. This moment ends. Nothing bad follows. You are still here. These rhythms appeared in many forms. Gentle movement that repeated without urgency. Sounds that flowed predictably. Sensations that rose and fell without surprise. The body recognized these patterns as safety long before the mind named them. In this realm, the alarm began to soften. It did not disappear, but it no longer dominated. It learned to wait, to listen, to stand down when no danger arrived. The storm lost its force, breaking into smaller waves that passed without overwhelming the shore. The watcher noticed how bodies here became more present. Eyes focused more clearly. Skin warmed. Posture shifted subtly, reclaiming space. The body no longer collapsed inward or braced for impact. It occupied itself again. This returning rhythm reached places untouched for a long time. Digestion stirred. Sleep deepened. Energy returned in gentle surges rather than frantic bursts. The body remembered how to repair itself when not constantly interrupted by threat. The watcher sensed how important consistency was here. Rhythm only worked when it returned again and again. One moment of calm could not undo years of vigilance. But many moments, layered patiently, rewrote expectation. In this place, the body began to trust time again. It learned that sensation could change. That discomfort could rise and then fall. That nothing stayed frozen forever. This understanding settled deep, loosening the grip of old memories. The watcher observed how people began to feel emotions more clearly. Sadness arrived without collapse. Joy surfaced without fear. Anger moved through the body without exploding or disappearing. Feelings became experiences rather than threats. Yet rhythm also revealed what had been hidden. As the body stabilized, deeper layers stirred. Old grief surfaced. Long-held fear whispered. The archive did not empty itself all at once. It revealed its contents when the system felt strong enough to hold them. The watcher felt the tension returning, different now but no less real. Healing did not mean silence. It meant capacity. The body could now hold more without breaking, but it still faced what had been stored away. In this realm, integration began. The mind and body moved closer, no longer at war. Sensation informed thought. Thought respected sensation. Neither dominated. They learned to move together, unevenly but sincerely. The watcher sensed that something was approaching its final form. The body had learned to feel, to connect, to regulate. But one challenge remained. Meaning. Not explanation, but understanding woven into identity. Ahead lay the last layer of the world. A place where the body no longer lived as an archive alone, but as a living story still being written. Chapter 8. The Living Thread. The watcher entered the final layer slowly, as if the world itself required reverence. This place did not hum with alarm or tremble with memory. It breathed. It felt inhabited. The body here was no longer a container for the past. It was a moving presence, aware of itself as it unfolded through the world. In this realm, sensation, rhythm, and connection wove together into something new. Not perfection. Not permanent peace. But coherence. The body felt like a single system rather than a collection of fractured parts. It still remembered, but memory no longer ruled. The watcher saw how the archive had changed. The stored impressions were still there, but they no longer erupted without warning. They rested within a wider field of awareness. The body knew it could touch them without being consumed. Here, identity felt different. People no longer defined themselves by what had wounded them. They sensed continuity within themselves, a thread that had persisted even through chaos. This thread had not been broken. It had only been buried. The body moved with intention now. Not rigid control, not collapse, but choice. It could step forward and step back. It could engage and rest. It could feel deeply without losing itself. These abilities had returned gradually, earned through patience rather than force. The watcher noticed how presence altered perception. The world appeared richer, more textured. Sounds carried depth. Light felt layered. The body inhabited space rather than guarding against it. Life was no longer something to endure. It was something to participate in. In this place, emotions flowed like weather rather than storms. Sadness passed through without erasing the sky. Fear arose without shutting down the world. Joy appeared without suspicion. None of these states defined the body completely. They moved, changed, and made room for one another. The watcher sensed how meaning emerged naturally here. Not as explanation, but as alignment. The body felt when something was right or wrong, nourishing or draining. These signals guided action more reliably than thought ever had. Connection deepened in this realm. Bodies met one another without losing their own edges. Closeness no longer meant danger or disappearance. Distance no longer meant abandonment. Relationship became a place of mutual regulation rather than survival negotiation. Yet this world was not static. The watcher saw fluctuations. Some days the alarm returned briefly. Some moments the archive stirred. But now the body recognized these states as temporary. It did not panic at their arrival. It knew how to return. The living thread held everything together. It connected past and present without collapsing them. It allowed the body to remember while staying rooted in now. It transformed history from a prison into a source of knowledge. The watcher felt something subtle but profound here. Responsibility. Not blame, not burden, but ownership. The body had reclaimed itself. It was no longer waiting to be rescued from within. It had learned how to care for itself in real time. This did not erase vulnerability. In fact, vulnerability increased. Feeling fully meant risking pain. But the body no longer equated vulnerability with helplessness. It knew it could respond. It trusted its capacity. The watcher observed how people here made different choices. They left situations that drained them. They sought experiences that nourished them. They listened inwardly without collapsing into self-ego. Their actions reflected an internal alignment rather than a reaction to threat. The archive no longer dominated the landscape. It had become part of it, integrated into a living terrain that continued to grow. The body was not fixed. It was adaptive, responsive, alive. As the watcher lingered, it sensed a quiet tension gathering once more. Not the tension of fear, but of transition. The body had learned to live again, but life itself would continue to bring challenge, loss, and uncertainty. The question was no longer whether the body could survive. It was whether it could remain present when the world demanded everything it had just reclaimed. Chapter 9, Staying Here. The watcher stepped into the final unfolding, where nothing shimmered with promise and nothing hid in shadow. This place felt ordinary at first. Streets, rooms, days that rose and fell without ceremony. Yet beneath this simplicity lay the greatest challenge the body would ever face. Staying. Not surviving. Not escaping. Not mastering. Staying present inside a world that would continue to wound, surprise, demand, and change. The body here was no longer preparing for disaster or dissolving into absence. It was learning how to remain open without losing itself. The watcher sensed how delicate this balance was. The body had reclaimed its rhythm, its sensation, its thread of continuity. But life did not soften in response. Loss still arrived. Conflict still stirred. Uncertainty still hovered at the edges of every connection. In this realm, the archive no longer erupted, but it whispered. Old sensations resurfaced during moments of stress. Tightness returned briefly. Breath shortened. The alarm flickered. The difference was subtle but profound. The body noticed. Not with panic. With awareness. The watcher saw how presence changed reaction. When tension appeared, the body did not spiral into fear. It adjusted. It shifted posture. It breathed. It grounded itself in sensation. The storm passed without overtaking the sky. This was not control. It was relationship. The body now related to its own signals with curiosity rather than judgment. Discomfort became information rather than danger. Emotion became movement rather than identity. The body listened and responded, moment by moment. The watcher observed how responsibility lived here differently. Not as obligation, but as choice. The body chose when to engage and when to rest. When to lean into connection and when to step back. It trusted itself to know the difference. This trust was not blind. It was earned. It had been built through countless moments of staying present when leaving would have been easier. Through noticing sensation without fleeing. Through allowing emotion without drowning. Through returning again and again to the present moment. The watcher sensed how the body now held its history without being ruled by it. The archive remained, but it no longer dictated the future. Memory informed choice instead of hijacking it. The past had become a teacher rather than a tyrant. In this final layer, identity felt fluid. People no longer clung tightly to who they had been, or who they thought they should become. They experienced themselves as ongoing, responsive, alive. Change no longer threatened annihilation. It was expected. The watcher noticed how meaning emerged through action rather than thought. Caring for the body became an act of presence. Listening inwardly shaped decisions outwardly. Life aligned not because it was explained, but because it was felt. Yet tension never vanished completely. Staying present required effort. Some days the world felt too loud. Some moments stirred old echoes. The body occasionally longed for numbness or vigilance. These urges were recognized, not obeyed. The watcher sensed the quiet courage this required. Not the dramatic courage of battle, but the steady courage of inhabiting oneself fully. Of remaining awake inside experience. Of choosing to feel in a world that could still hurt. The body here did not seek certainty. It accepted unpredictability as part of life. It trusted its ability to respond rather than its ability to prevent. This trust allowed flexibility, creativity, and resilience to flourish. As the watcher prepared to withdraw, it felt the world settle into a new shape. The archive remained open, but it was no longer the center. The living body had taken its place. The watcher did not leave behind a promise of safety or permanence. It left behind something quieter and stronger. A body that knew how to return to itself. Again and again. Even when the world demanded everything. If this story stayed with you, if it made you feel something before you understood it, which audiobook should we retell next? Tell me in the comments. And if you want more immersive stories like this, like the video, subscribe to Momentum Mind, and keep the momentum moving.